Well, that night as I slept, I dreamt my dog and my cougar were eating me. It was a horrifying nightmare. Turns out, though, that's only the fate of pirates around here. Not good, honest people. I planned out a tailoring bench. And the first thing in the morning, I ran off to gather the oranges that had fallen out of the sky. They were going to be too good to pass up. I went by a sleeping fox. He's a cute little fella. Didn't seem to mind me too much, so I didn't mind him. I got the oranges brought in, ate a meal, and made myself an electric tailor bench. It was high time I got some halfway decent clothes. I wouldn't have anything to make a nice hat out of, but I could do a shirt, pants, parka. I had all that buffalo fur, and that's what I was going to use. So long as I didn't waste my silk. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that yet, but it didn't seem like it was going to be too warm. I spent the day researching till I finished figuring out how to make pemmican. So now I had an option when I decided to travel. After that, I thought I'd figure out how to do some smithing as I ate a whole bushel of oranges. I was feeling decent, although my room was a mess and I found that slightly upsetting. But after tidying up, I felt great. It was time to throw some horseshoes and relax a little bit. And that's just what I did. After that, it was high time I got to making my button-down shirt. And it turned out good. I was well pleased with myself. Next, it was time for some blue fur pants. This was going to be great. Given this weather, they didn't turn out too great. But what are you going to do? I don't consider myself the best crafter here. I made a halfway decent parka next, for which I was stoked about. They were better than what I was already wearing, so a guy can't complain too much. After that, I went and put them all on. My nice coordinated outfit. If only I had something decent to make a nice hat out of. I also decided it'd be better to carry around one of them guns those pirates had left me, rather than that bow. And then I was off to bed. Well, that night while I slept, a few things happened. First, a mad raccoon came scratching at the door. He was hell-bent on blood. I found a dead wolf while I was spying that raccoon out. I decided that wolf would make some good fur and good meat. I ignored the raccoon, mostly because my traps probably deal with him. Sure enough, he went down. I decided to finish him off, barely batting an eye in my sleep. Next, however, a loud crash screeched through the sky. A fireball came down. Solid silver meteorite had smashed into that creepy old building, setting loose a bunch of robots. They seemed to be guarding some old dusty caskets of some type. I didn't know what to make of it, but it sure did scare the crap out of me. At this point, I wasn't even sure if it made sense to keep living here. This was madness. What were these things, and what could I do? For now, my only plan was to avoid the whole area. Seemed like I could easily accomplish that, and I could keep my critters from going over there as well. So that was going to be the plan. Hopefully, I didn't attract their attention. The next morning, I picked up that timber wolf and butchered him, and then I got down to doing some research. I decided to work on packaged survival meals. Be a little more fulfilling on the road than that pemmican would. Give me something to do. I didn't have the skills yet to be able to make packaged survival meals, or even fine meals for that matter. But I was going to practice up, see if I could figure it out here. So I started cooking, and that's what I worked on. It was going to be quite a few meals. While I cooked, I got a call. Someone was being chased by a pirate. So I offered the fella safety, because me and those pirates are at odds. He was a good guy, looked like he could hold his own in a fight. Seemed a little crazy though. Older fella. Left eye looked a little wacky. But for all that, Constantin was an alright guy. He was in pain due to his wounds, but he didn't really expect a lot, so his mood was alright. I told him, across the field, see if you can lure that pirate over by those robots. That might just solve our problem there. And in the end, he didn't want to get too close to those robots, and I didn't blame him. So he ran around for a little bit. And that pirate didn't seem too interested in Constantin anyways. He was coming straight for my base. Of course, Constantin didn't show up armed. He was barehanded, and the pirate had a pistol on him. A real creepy looking man he was. Constantin crept around behind him. The pirate seemed to be doped up on something. Had a pretty rough looking gun on him. But a gun's a gun, and I certainly didn't want to get shot. Poor Hamlet was walking out there though. I sure didn't want to see my dog get shot. So I ran over to make sure no funny business was going to happen. The pirate did step on one of my traps, and that put a real good hurting on him. And while I was over there, I yelled at the dog to get himself inside. One shot took that pirate right down. And Constantin was pretty happy to get over there and strip him, after having been chased for God knows how long. I feel like Constantin rubbed it in a little bit, but that pirate was doomed anyways. Turns out, Constantin wasn't a very useful fella. As I passed him in the hallway, I told him, "Hey man, you can't stay." Well, he left me some gear, and then he agreed to leave. Of course, I felt bad like I always do when I throw somebody out of here. But after rebuilding my trap, I hauled in that pirate's clothes. I left him sitting. It was at that time a real happy feeling came over me once again. Not sure what it's about, but I'm not going to complain. My wall needed a little repair due to my sorry shooting, and then it was back to cooking a little bit, trying to figure out how to get the hang of making these great meals. Still, it was going to be a little while. I cooked and cooked and cooked, and finally that pirate passed away. So I took him down and put him in the pirate body pile for the dog and the cougar to eat. That seemed to be working out alright. And with that grossness on my mind, it was time to lay down and go to bed for the night. I was contemplating those robots the whole time, thinking about whether there was some way I could lure them all into a trap that would do them all in. They were guarding a bionic arm, but it wasn't going to last terribly long, being now that it was exposed to the elements, thanks to that meteorite. The next morning, I did a whole lot of cleaning, mixed in with some hauling. Things were such a disaster around here, I didn't want to let it go any longer. Plus, keeping your kitchen clean is always a real good idea. So, after that, had a little meal, tidied up the mess that just randomly appeared, and got back to cooking. My dog sure was liking those pirate bodies. And I was still a little bit unsettled with that. But wasn't much I could do. And they were bad men. They deserved what they got. After cooking for a while, I sat down to do some research. While researching, I decided heck with it. I'm going to make some more meals, see if I can get there, while that cougar of mine feasted on those pirates in a most disturbing way. Linda lost her whole head to him that day, and my belly was not stable. So I cooked more, all the while trying to judge roughly how long it was going to take me to figure out how to make those fine meals. After making about 10 more meals, I went right back to research. I thought about making a stonecutter's table. I had tons of blocks around. As I chucked horseshoes, I made a little bit of a plan in my head on where it was going to go. In the end, though, I changed my mind on it. What's the point of making all these blocks? Evening hours set in. I decided to do a little bit of mining. I didn't have much steel on hand, and it would be useful to keep some about. While mining, hunger struck as it does. I also noticed while I was mining a crazy weird scratching and clicking noise under the ground behind me. I wasn't too keen on that, so I decided to build a wall over it. Whatever was under there, hopefully I could keep it down there and not have to deal with it. This planet sure did have its surprises. I was a little worried when I went to bed that night about it, but night seemed to go fine. The dog woke up first and he was hungry, so he went and ate some pirates. And I got straight to mining first thing in the morning. And then I decided maybe I better build that wall. If there was something under the ground, I sure didn't want it to show up. I made that my priority before getting back to doing a little more mining. At that point, my good mood started to fade. Not really sure why, it just went away, which was a little disappointing. There were all kinds of other structures about. I debated on tearing some of them down. It'd be a better play making a bench and cutting up all my own blocks. Planned a little bit of more wall over where I thought I heard some more scratching under the ground, and that seemed to take care of the problem. After that, I didn't hear anything. And I was going to sleep a little more peaceful tonight because of that. I finished my mining, and I went and laid down and watched the sunset. And it was nice. I didn't feel cold, and it was nice to just enjoy some outdoors. After that, I researched a tiny bit. I got all my steel hauled in, and I heard a loud crash bang. Some transport pods had come down, and lo and behold, it was Smoke Leaf. I was always the kind of guy that would prefer a beer over a little Smoke Leaf, but I certainly wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I felt good that night when I went to sleep, as I had something to set my mind to, a task to accomplish on the morrow. In the morning, first thing I did was boogied on down. That Smoke Leaf wasn't going to last in the water where it sat. I wasn't happy about running out there in the water to get it, but it'd be worthwhile when I was puffing on that. After carrying it back, I got straight to making those Smoke Leaf joints. I didn't feel myself getting any smarter while doing it, but it passed the time. I had some meals. I made some joints. Eventually I decided to be smarter, set all my Smoke Leaves up next to me where I was working. And it was about that time Hamlet took ill. Seemed like he had the flu or something. I was able to get him fixed up alright. He did just lay around though. For me, it was back to making Smoke Leaf joints. And I had just enough to to make about 25, except I kept smoking them. And it was with a nice buzz that I went to bed that night. While laying in bed, I decided it'd probably be a good thing if I only smoked that stuff once in a while. So every couple of days should be good. I made a promise to myself to keep it at that. Shouldn't be too big of an issue. Next day, had a little food. I had to feed Hamlet. He didn't look like he was getting up anytime soon. He seemed like he was going to pull through just fine. And then it was time to make some more joints. And at that point, I finally got through, got all my joints made. After that, a little bit of tidy up. I was back to researching then. In the back of my mind that whole time, I was trying to figure a way I could get them robot fellas locked into some kind of trap that would kill them. They definitely had me outranged and led some real fancy looking guns, and all I had was this piece of junk I took off that dead pirate. So in the end, I decided it probably wasn't a good idea. Who knows what they were protecting in them caskets anyway. Probably somebody else that want to shoot me up. After the research, I was back to cooking. And it was at that point I had finally learned how to make myself some fine meals. It was truly an awesome moment. So I set to working on that till I had a whole bunch of them, and then it was off to bed. Hamlet still hadn't gotten up. While in bed, once again, I was thinking about those robots. What I could do. Could I nab that bionic arm? I'm sure it'd be worth something to somebody. I thought about maybe mining through the nearest mountain, opening the wall. All of it just didn't seem like it would be worth dying though. Maybe I could make up some fancy IED traps. Seemed like it'd be pretty far-fetched though. I was getting close to figuring out how these packaged survival meals were gonna work. I was pretty torn. It'd be a long time before I could make any kind of weapons. Mortars might do them in too, was another thought I had. But again, that was gonna take a long while to figure out how to make those. And it just did not seem like it was gonna be worth the hassle. The next day, I enjoyed a fine meal first thing in the morning. Did a little bit of tidying up once again. I gave Hamlet some of my oranges, thinking maybe some vitamin C would help pull him through this flu situation. And he did seem to perk up a bit, so that was nice. For me, it was back to making fine meals. I decided I was done with the simple meals. After that, I sat down and researched some more. All the while, thinking about those robots. Some animals had been in a fight nearby them, and if I could go over there, there'd be free deer meat, and no doubt free cougar meat pretty soon. I feel like that's just the god of this planet trying to torture me and tempt me to go over there and get killed. Instead, I tended to Hamlet, who definitely was getting better. In between researching and cleaning, wasn't a whole lot going on during that day. So I sat. I was still unhappy about kicking that fella out of the colony. Once again though, Smokeleaf was really pulling me through. Plus these new fancy meals I'd been making really helped improve my mood as well. Despite it being the 8th of September, my snowman was hanging in there. It wasn't going to be long before he disappeared. That night, I laid in bed. Didn't think about them robots at all. Had a good night's sleep. Fed Hamlet some more oranges in the morning. And then I did a bunch of cleaning. After that, I decided I needed to get outside for a while, and there was still some ship chunks sitting way up to the north. There was a wounded caribou up there, but I was up here on a mission, so I ripped apart the 4 ship chunks. And I did my best to carry all them components back. It was quite a haul. I did see a dead buck on the way back. I ran right by him, so I took note of him. Also, a turkey had stepped on one of my traps. I was thinking about leaving a little rice at the end of my trap line. I could bait these creatures in probably, especially if it was winter. Just have a whole bunch of food sources going. And that was something to put in the back of my mind for next winter. Come summer, I'd probably be inundated with wildlife around here, if them robots didn't scare them all off. So I ran out and grabbed that deer, rebuilt my trap next. My cougar seemed happy. I was getting a little nervous around him. I think he might have developed a taste for human flesh, being that that's all he'd been eating for weeks. And I butchered my deer and I butchered my turkey, and I did some tidying up. Things sure did get messy around here. After that, it felt like it was time to plant. I decided I was going to do some rice, get something that's going to come in pretty fast. Rice grows in just a few days typically, although it was a little cold around here yet. A dry thunderstorm struck as I was doing that. Even caught my wall on fire. Direct hit. Yeah, sometimes just luck is not on your side. At that point, I put out the fires, smoked myself another smoke leaf joint as it had been a few days, and then decided it was time to go and repair my wall. And that's what I did. Despite the lightning flashing like mad, after that wall was repaired, I was off to bed. No thoughts of those robots broke my mind that night. I got a good night's sleep. Hamlet was back up, running around, enjoying the pirate meat I'd left out. I did not like to smell that dog's breath after he'd been eating rotten human, I will tell you that. I was back to planting rice. Didn't like the fact that I didn't have much of a grow zone. Had I had a bigger one, I would have went for other plants. But as it was, rice it was going to be, and hopefully my animals would stay out of there. For me, back to research after that. And that's where I sat. I could hear my cougar down there, eating more human meat. And once again, I had to ignore it. I still didn't like the thought of it, but that's the law of nature. Especially for them dirty pirates. After researching for a while, had a meal, and then I figured out how to make packaged survival meals. I was pretty stoked. I'd always liked to tinker, build things, work with metal. At that point, I decided to figure out how to do some smithing. Should be a good play for me. From there, maybe I can get some decent weapons. Hamlet was indeed immune. He was running around like his normal self, happy as a clam. That caribou had eventually died. I was happy for that. And I realized I'd left a bunch of steel out there too. There's no reason not to bring that in. That was a dead fox, but he looked like he'd been there for quite a while. A dead rat that had definitely been there for way too long to eat. So I planned some cleaning, which I did when I got up from the research bench. And then after that, I was off to haul me a caribou in. Nothing like delicious free meat. And when I got that guy back, it was time to go to bed. Next day, I was out and about, hauling my steel in. And there was too much for me to carry. One load, so I left a tiny bit. And I decided I didn't really need that tiny bit that much. It wouldn't be worth running all the way back out there. I thought about expanding my little storage area. Clearly things were getting out of hand full. In the end, I just decided to eat a fine meal. And then, have myself another smoke leaf joint. Sure did keep the mood up nice. I wasn't feeling any effects from it at this point. So, it was back to cooking after that. I was happy as a clam. Nothing like some smoke leaf to make a fella get the munchies. I was running out of oranges pretty fast. And it was going to be quite a long time before I figured out how to make packaged survival meals for real. My skills just weren't what they needed to be, even though I had the concepts down. So I kept working on that. And while doing so, got back to thinking about them robots for the first time in a while. I'm sure by now that bionic arm was getting close to not being worth as much. If anything, I could hear them robots screeching and scratching, making crazy noises, just begging me to come over there. I decided to make a bunch of pemmican, because that'd be good for traveling. Maybe I could leave here sooner rather than later, given this robot situation. And then I realized one of my windmills was broke down. And my rice seemed to be growing pretty fast. I noticed that while repairing that windmill, so that was good. I was really liking the idea of getting some kind of pack animal going. The biggest thing I could find was a caribou, which said it could probably carry a lot based on its size. Also, it was not a pack animal based on its mentality, so that was too bad. After that, a little more tree chopping was in order, and then we had another refugee being chased. This time they were being chased by a tribesperson, so it wasn't going to be any pirates I had to deal with. Brewer showed up. She was the one being chased. Older lady. Seemed like a friendly type. Had a big smile on her face. Also seemed like the type that didn't like men very much, and it liked to start fires. Despite being a little older, she didn't have any health issues. I decided to let her come on in, grab herself a club. Maybe next time she gets chased, she can defend herself. I was chopping trees the whole time. That's when that tribesperson showed up. Pretty sure they weren't in a normal state of mind. They showed up with nothing but a club. Seemed like one hell of a fighter. Clearly he was doped up on something. I wasn't quite sure what it was. Brewer ended up leaving me a hat, but I let her take the club in exchange. She decided she was going to fight this person that had been chasing after her. And I decided I should probably assist, seeing as I had a pistol. It'd be nice to take this person out. Before they could break my traps. The orange didn't quite make it in the base, and then stepped on one of my traps. Got himself killed. Fortunately, he left a little bit of ambrosia. After that excitement was over, Brewer was so thankful, she left me her coat. She said summer was coming, and she didn't need it. She was happy to have the club, though. So she took off with that. Once again, I wasn't stoked to see her go, even though she really didn't like men. Now I decided, being that Orange wasn't a pirate, I'd give Orange a proper burial, not let the animals have at the carcass. And then I rebuilt the trap that had been set off. The animals didn't look well pleased with me. There was all kinds of dead stuff laying around, I'm sure, given all the aggressive wildlife here. Sadly, as I went to bed, I contemplated the fact there were no pack animals I could try and tame. As I laid there, a raccoon stepped on my trap. I heard a horrible squeal. Didn't quite die, but it sure wasn't going to make it. And again, I contemplated any way I could deal with them robots, as I drifted off to sleep for the night.